Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Yvonne Say and I'm the Chair of the Pensions Committee and Board. Please note this meeting is recorded by the Council for live and subsequent broadcast via the Council's internet site. I'll begin the meeting by asking members to introduce themselves. If we could start, Councillor Bevan.
Councillor John Bevan, Vice Chair, Northumberland Park Ward Councillor.
Oh, I missed out Ishmael, sorry, I should start with you. Go ahead.
I'm the employee member.
Keith Brown, employer member.
Nick DaCosta, Councillor for Highgate Ward.
Councillor Hymas.
Councillor Tammy Hymas, St Anne's Ward.
Matt White, Councillor for Tottenham Central.
Diane Corran, Councillor for Woodside.
And can I ask the officers to introduce themselves if we start this end?
Jamie Abbott, the Pension Manager.
Tim Mpofu, Head of Pensions and Treasury.
Steve Turner, Investment Advisor from Mercer.
Alex Goddard, Investment Advisor from Mercer.
John Rose, an Independent Advisor.
Julie Bailey, Fund Actuary from Hymes Robertson.
And Douglas Green, another fund actuary from Hyman's Robertson.
And in the corner?
And Fiona Ray, Acting Committees Manager.
Thank you. Sorry? Oh, and on the screen, please. I don't know who's on the screen. Patrick.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Patrick Hughes from the Council's Legal Department. I'm legal advisor to the committee.
Toyin.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Toyin Bamidele, Interim Assistant Director of Finance and Deputy Section 151 Officer.
Thank you. That's everyone's. We've had apologies for absence from Craig Pattinson. And we go on to item 3, urgent business. There are no items of urgent business, but there are late reports in relation to items 7, 10 and 20. Under section 100B(4)(b) of the Local Government Act 1972, I'm of the opinion that the report should be considered at the meeting as a matter of urgency by reason of special circumstances which are set out in the agenda and will be included in the minutes. So item 4 is declarations of interest. Do members have any declaration of interest or conflicts of interest to declare? No? There are no declarations of interest, so I shall move on to item 5, deputations, petitions, representations and questions. None received so far. Item 6, record of training undertaken since last meeting. To note any training undertaken since the last meeting, do members or officers, can you update us on any training undertaken?
I've sent a list of my last few months' training to, is it Fiona?
Yes, I've received it. It'll be included in the minutes. Thanks, Councillor Bevan.
Training on liability driver investment and actuarial valuation was undertaken by members on the 22nd of November 2022, which will be recorded in the minutes. Do any other members have any training to report? No. Okay, we are on to item 7, minutes. That's on the supplementary agenda. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes of the meeting of the 12th of September? Public minutes only at this point. And can we agree the minutes? Agreed. Thank you. And then we're on to item 8, pension administration report, pages 1 to 4. Can I now invite officers to introduce the report? Lead officers Tim Mpofu and Jamie Abbott.
Good evening all. We have 5 items to update you on in the pension administration team. They are the pension fund membership update, the resourcing of the pension administration team, approval of a new emission agreement, details of an employer joining the pension fund, and online member self-service portal update. As you can see, the pension fund membership is wholly consistent to last quarter with not much change in membership numbers. In terms of the resourcing of the pension administration team, We went out for 4 vacancies and managed to appoint 3 out of the 4. That was a pension officer, a pension payroll officer, and a team leader. The pension officer commenced employment yesterday. The payroll officer is due to commence on the 28th of November, and the team leader is due to commence on the 9th of January 2023. That leaves remaining vacancies of a senior officer and a pension officer and an apprentice. And we look to address those next year, giving the new people time to settle into the team. Taking comments on board from the last meeting, we've had discussions with the head of apprenticeships to outline the steps required to recruit one, and we're in the process of drafting a job description and seeking what qualification they can undertake within the team. And I'll pause there for any questions about the recruitment.
Councillor Bevan?
Can you just explain the difference between the table on 2 and page 2 and page 3? So the table on 2 has got 4 entries in it. Well, 3 including, if you include the total. The table on page 3 has got similar wording, but different numbers against some of them. I'm not, can you explain the difference? So it's got active members 6301 on the first table, then total active members registration on MSS. Is it 953? I'm a bit confused. What does all that mean? And also, we'll answer that first.
Yeah, so the membership number as at the 30th of September 2022 is the total number of active members in the LGPS fund of Haringey. And on 6.9, the number is then repeated, but the 953 is the number of members who have signed up to the member self-service portal, and we'll cover what that is later on.
So we still don't know the figures of the number of members who are going onto the website each month, which we used to get before, because you said you had problems working out that figure, because we used to get that every quarter.
Yeah, correct. So we are having difficulty getting that figure, but also we recognise that the figure that we would get would not only just be members of the Haringey Pension Fund, but would be anyone who visits the site. So I could visit the site 5 times in a month, and that'd be 5 visits. So for the data maybe wouldn't be as kind of what you think it would represent, and that's why we included the member self-service information, because that's more relevant, and that showed active Haringey members accessing the pension fund website.
So when they get their statement, their yearly statement online, does that only go to the 800 and something active members on the MSS system, or does it actually go to the 8,000 something? Because that goes up.
So the statements are uploaded for all members, but as you can see, only 953 have accessed the online portal. But we are kind of holding webinars and promoting the member self-service, get more members signed up.
So Councillor Bev, just to come in. So in terms of the all the members will get their annual benefit statements, but what we are tracking with this number is the actual active members who are currently working in employment, because the member self-service portal is designed so members can go in and view their records, do some focus around how much they can get when they get to retirement. So what we're looking is to track how many of those members who are actively working are signed up onto the portal. What we found was the number was lower than we expected. So we have started having discussions internally in the organization as to how we can encourage more people to join up. So this is one of the key things that we thought would bring to this committee to report on, because I think it kind of feeds in with your query that we actually can identify who are those active members who are logged onto the system, who have access to the AVS electronically, and then that number can continue to grow, and that means they're much more informed about their pension arrangements.
Yeah, so if an active member logs in, I'm assuming he's got to put a code in or his pension number or something. Whereas if a member of the public just wanted to access the site, they'd just access it without anything. So is that not a way you can tell how many active members are actually looking at their pension, because they're putting in a code rather than a member of the public who's not putting in anything?
We can certainly take that away and investigate further. I think the inquiry done at the moment was who's landing on the main page, and that can just be anyone from wherever in the world, but we can certainly inquire whether we can get that more granular detail thereafter.
So moving on to the approval of the new admission agreements. So in essence, an admission agreement is a contract between the pension fund and an external service provider, allowing that provider to be part of the LGPS. And it kind of normally occurs when an external employer takes over a service that was previously provided by the council and therefore required to offer the LGPS to existing employees. So the pensions team, with assistance from legal, review the admission agreement and the guarantee bond, and the bond is a value of money which is put to one side to protect the fund against unpaid liabilities arising from the contracted admission. Haringey Council, as the administrative authority and scheme employer for Haringey LGPS, has authority to agree the admission of bodies into the pension scheme under Schedule 2 of the Local Government Pension Scheme Regulation 2013. But the council had delegated this responsibility to the pension committee and board. So the details of the employer potentially joining the pension fund. So Alexandra Primary and Belmont Infant Junior Schools have tendered their catering services, and the successful bidder was Lunchtime Company Lid. Lunchtime Company Lid is a known company to the fund because they already provide catering services to a number of other schools within Haringey. So in essence, it is quite a straightforward admission agreement for us to compile. And I'll take any questions around that.
Councillor White.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, so just to check, really, we don't have any choice but to admit this employer, because this employer is providing a service, and you know it's just a fact that this decision, which the council is required to make, actually, is delegated to this body. So it's being brought here because this is where the decision has to be made. But we don't really have a choice but to agree that, because if we didn't agree it, then it would be a huge problem. Yes, just to be clear. I mean, sorry if that's an awkward question, but really, it's just there's a new employer whose employees need to be admitted into the LGPS. This is where that decision has to be made. Therefore,
yes,
we need to make that decision tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's essentially the summary. So the constitution for Haringey Council delegates our authority to this group as the administering authority. And I think admitted bodies have to be admitted in if they are delivering the services that are good or similar to what council produced into the scheme. So this group is essentially approving that we can go ahead and finalize that agreement. So we do work quite closely with our legal colleagues in making sure that the bond and the agreement that's in place is good.
And lastly, onto the member self-service portal. So as kind of previously discussed, the member self-service portal is an online portal that the members can sign up for, and they can view their pension values, they can run estimates and amend their personal details. And as you know, again mentioned, the number was quite low to what we kind of expected. So we've started running workshops to engage more with members and kind of direct them to the portal in order to try and increase sign-ups and give the member kind of more visibility around their pensions. Any questions on that?
I've got a question. I wondered how this compares with other local authority pension funds, and maybe it might be worth asking them how they've managed to boost up the numbers, because obviously the more people who get involved, the better, really.
Yeah, definitely agree. We can take that away and maybe ask around, see if we can compare numbers.
Councillor Ian Karen.
Thank you. Can I ask if those who are not accessing this through the portal, do they get a letter to the post, or is that how you deliver it? A printed statement?
Yes, so members who aren't signed up can request paper copies of estimates or statements if they contact the pension team. It just gives members who are on the portal more kind of flexibility around their own access, but we do provide paper stuff to members who aren't online.
Okay, can we note this report and the information provided regarding the pension fund's administration activities set out in section 6 of this report? And can we approve the admission of Lunchtime Company Limited as a new employer to the pension fund in respect of service contracts with Alexandra Primary School and Belmont Infant and Junior School as set out in paragraph 6.5 to 6.7? Is that agreed? Okay. Can I now invite officers to introduce the report for item 9, Pension Fund Quarterly Investment and Performance Update? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be introducing this report. So this report, members will be familiar with it. It's a standing item that we bring to each quarterly meeting, and essentially just provides the investment performance for the fund over the last quarter. The main thing to just point out to members is on section 6.2 of the report is the market value of the fund, which is now 1.66 billion. This is a decrease of 1.26% since the last quarter. And on table 1 of that page, it sort of shows you the breakdown of the portfolio. In section 6.6, there is a chart. Chart 1 just shows the performance of the fund over the quarter and over the year and a few other periods. The main thing just for members to note again is even though the performance has been negative, we are expecting there's been quite a bit of a downturn in the markets over the last few months. The performance of the fund is still outperforming the benchmark, and the benchmark is comprised of all the assets that we have in the asset allocation, and they all have target performance that they're supposed to achieve. And we've seen largely that there has been broadly in line with what we would expect. The only other thing I think to mention just to members is just to highlight the investment in the London Civ, just to say that the assets now are around 71%. Otherwise, I think more of the other granular kind of details around performance can be covered in the exempt section of this agenda. But I'm happy to sort of open up to questions for now, Chair, if that's okay.
Any questions? This item also has some exempt information, and the recommendation will be considered in the exempt section of the meeting, although the item is just to note, no decision. We now go on to item 10, Haringey Pension Fund Annual Report. So that's in the supplementary agenda. Can I invite officers to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. Right, so the item 10, again, my apologies for delivering this a little bit late for members. I'm aware that members did get this last minute and members may not have had an opportunity to go through the annual report. Just a few things to mention for members is this is a requirement under the Local Government Authority, Local Government Pension Scheme Regulations 2013 for all the schemes participating in the scheme to produce an annual report each year, and is to be published by the 1st of December. This is usually in the context of once we've finished our accounts, our year-end accounts, we usually would have obtained an audit opinion, and then the report is then approved by this group, and then will subsequently go onto the website, which allows members to be able to see how well their pension scheme is being managed. However, due to a number of issues, particularly in response to the pandemic, the government had already changed the date. So the date for accounts used to be the 31st of May. That's now been moved to the 31st of July. And the requirement to have published the accounts is as of the 30th of September 2022. So at the last meeting, we did have the auditors here, and they talked through to the members around the progress we're making on the audit. Unfortunately, that audit is still not complete. So that's the 2020-21 audit. And as a result, there's been a lot of issues in terms of us getting this report to be approved at this stage as well. So what we're essentially asking from members at this point is to review the report that's been provided to you. If there are any notable changes or concerns, we welcome any reviews from you. The idea is we'll put this onto the website so members can view what the report is. We don't think it's going to be drastically different to this version, obviously subject to your views on this. And then once the audit has been completed, which we expect to start at some point next year, we'll bring it again to this committee, and then you can formally approve it, and it will be an audited set of an annual report. So think in the recommendation, there was a request that we amend it, Chair. I'm not sure the specifics of that, but I'm happy for that recommendation to be amended to allow for the report to go through.
Did you want to give us a form of words, Councillor White?
If we just, apologies, because I was actually expecting John to give a brief report, so I was slightly.
Well, can I suggest that we change the recommendation to provisionally approve the draft version, subject to time to review?
My suggestion was that just that members be afforded the opportunity to ask questions and make comments by email prior to the report being uploaded to the website, which I'm sure won't be happening absolutely immediately. So just in the next few days, if members, just because of the late submission of this report, that in view of that, members be given the opportunity to read through it properly, and if we have any questions or comments, that we have time to make those before the report is uploaded. Is that okay as a recommendation?
Yes, no, we're certainly happy for members to have the opportunity to do that. And if members would like to have a discussion about contents of the report with me, I'm happy to make myself available for that as well.
Councillor Hymas.
With publishing an unaudited report, do you anticipate that there would be any changes to that report in light of the audit?
No, I can't assess what the auditors would do, but I wouldn't expect the report to change. Essentially, what the auditors would check for is whether we've complied with the regulations in terms of how we've done the accounting for the reports. But we are very happy with the numbers we've put in. It would just be a case of what the auditors might pick up or what they might not be happy with, but we expect it to be more or less the same.
Do you then have like a contingency plan in the event that there is a discrepancy between the numbers that you have and the auditors?
The auditors will come to this meeting and they will provide the Pensions Committee and board with, if that was to be the case, with what those issues are. And there usually is a work plan in terms of how those issues can be resolved. But we've not had that incident yet at Haringey, so I wouldn't expect that to be an issue. But they will come in. We'll invite them to produce a report on the audit progress and their key findings.
Okay, is everybody happy with that recommendation? Yes, okay, thank you. Sorry.
Sorry, I'll just use the microphone. It's Fiona, Acting Committees Manager. Can I just clarify if we are proposing, just to note this in the minutes, that members can comment and contact Tim outside of the meeting, or if we're proposing a new recommendation which will need to be proposed, seconded and voted on?
Well, I'm happy to just note that, but if it's up to you, Councillor White, as you raised this initially.
If we can just note that as an action, given that it's been noted that it's not going to go up immediately, and that will be recorded presumably. So I'm happy for it just to be noted as an action to allow members the opportunity to ask questions, make comments by email if necessary. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll go on to item 11, risk register. Sorry, can we just formally agree that recommendation as agreed? Yeah. Thank you. And we go on to item 11, risk register, pages 15 to 26. Can I now invite officers to introduce the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to introduce this one as well. So this item that we've presented is the pension funds risk register. The focus of this particular review is on funding and liability risks. Given that we are considering the actuarial evaluation and the outcome of that, we thought it might be worth pointing out what some of those risks are and asking for members to comment on whether they feel that the assessment of this risk is in line with their expectations, and if there are any areas where they feel like the risk can be managed differently, would welcome those comments as well. We've also attached a copy of the full register. I think when we spoke lastly, when we started including this as part of this agenda, is we are going to include bits as we review them. So there are still some elements that are to come that are not completely involved in the register yet, but over time you expect those to be brought and be kept in. The key risks that we wanted to just highlight are not actually related to funding or liability risk. They're more looking around the high inflation, which was discussed earlier in our training about the impact that might have, particularly on the investment risk. And we've just highlighted that inflation in September came in at 10.1%. So inflation still remains a big concern for the fund. One thing that members might want to be aware of is the CPI inflation is what leads to the uplift of benefits from April. So we might want to consider that in the context of the investment strategy, and over the next few meetings, we'll be bringing that to your attention. The other risk, which was there from last meeting as well, is the increasing risk of a market downturn. And again, that's mainly based on what we're hearing in the financial markets and in communication that the Bank of England confirmed that we are now in a recession. Again, members need to be aware in terms of what impact that might have on the investment portfolio. And then the final risk was one we've just discussed on the delay to the publication of the statements. Even though there is a delay on those statements, the statements have been prepared. They are available for people to see, and we're just waiting for the external auditors to come in and complete their work. So those were the few things I just wanted to raise to members, but I'm happy to have a broader discussion around the risks.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, can we then note and provide any comments on the pension fund's risk register? The area of focus for review at the meeting is the funding / liability related risks. But as we have no comments, we can move on. If we're noting the report, yes. Thank you. Item 12, local authority pension fund forum voting update. Can I now invite officers to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. So this one is the LAP update that we provide to members at each meeting. And again, LAP is the Local Authority Pension Fund Forum, and we are a member of that alongside a number of other local authorities. And they really engage on our behalf to try and make sure that the companies that are involved in making the decisions and these businesses are conducting it in a responsible way. This particular report was a bit of a quiet one. Normally we do get quite a list of voting alerts, but usually over the summer there weren't a lot of meetings, so there was only one AGM that had a voting alert. That's on table 1, which is basically, I think it's SSE, and the LAP recommendation was for them to produce a report on the net zero transition, and that has been, the recommendation was to vote for it, and LGIM, our asset manager, also voted in line with the recommendation. There were a few other engagement that LAP carried out, and as always, I would encourage any member to go onto their website and look at their quarterly report. It does go into detail about some of their work, which is not only based in the UK, but also globally.
Councillor Bevan.
Yeah, just to say, LAP asked for the details of our holdings, didn't they? Which they do. They asked councils everywhere, what are your holdings, so that they know where they can place their influence, because councils have got a big holding in various companies, etc. And I was actually told that we were the only council that they talked to. You know, they recommend now function vote at an AGM. They actually told me we were the only council that asked them that recommendation to our fund managers. So I've been a fund manager for both of their elections, which they don't often do, sometimes they do. But that's what they said. We were the only council that passing that information to their fund managers. So I just thought that was really impressive. I don't know how many councils they asked, but you know.
But yeah, I don't have stats as well in terms of how many councils they send. I know they send the voting alerts to all their members, but I think we've always been passing them forward to our investment managers. Obviously, sometimes LGIM does votes in line with LAP, and when they don't, they usually notify us as to the reason why they do not do so.
Can we note the report? Yep. I will go on to item 13, the forward plan. Can I now invite officers to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. So this report we bring again to every meeting, just for members to help us in informing the agenda going forward. It is an opportunity for members to look at what's likely to come in the pipeline. Some of these things are mandatory and are part of ordinary business, but there might be other things that are not included on here where members may wish for us to have a particular focus on. For example, today we discussed about LDI. This is something that can feature in terms of this, this forward plan. And just to reference to members that also in Appendix 2, there is a training plan for conferences that are coming up. So the first one is the LAP conference we were just discussing about. They have one in Bournemouth. I think we're allowed 2 delegates. I believe we have 2 delegates, so maybe that one is not open for members. But there's also the local government conference or governance conference that's hosted by the LGA, which will be in January. Again, that's one that's open for members. We'd encourage members to go to that one because that's quite a good conference to go to. It helps in informing your responsibilities as members of the Pensions Committee and Board. And then I think there was a final one that we did send via email around some of the courses that the LGA is putting on. The deadline, again, I'll just remember members, is this week. If members are unable to make it, that's no problem. Next year, the LGA does the same series again, so we can again bring that to your attention a lot sooner. But if members are interested, just to say, do get in touch with me via email and we'll book you onto that one.
Can I say, if you have me down as for the conference, unfortunately, for personal reasons, I can't go. So if there will be a vacancy, if I was one of those 2.
Yes, Councillor say you were one of those 2. So if there's anyone else who's interested in taking Councillor Say's place, just let me know before the end of this week, I believe. Otherwise, it might be a bit too late. The conference is next week.
Councillor Bevan.
The list here of the items for the various meetings, the LGA training that we missed, which I understand takes place every year, those 3 set days that they do every year. Could we not have an item referring to that in this programme so as that we don't miss it again next year? So say the training takes place in April and they advertise it in January, February. You get what I mean? Can we not have something in here to check the LGA training for this year and if people want to go on it?
Yes, so I'm very happy to include it as part of Appendix 2. Once those new dates are released, I can just add them onto that training plan for members. Just to, again, to emphasize, that's not mandatory training. That's why in the past we haven't shared it with members. But if members are interested in going to this, we are more than happy to include it there.
We'll put it in the forward plan when it needs to be looked at and arranged, yeah?
Yes, yeah, I will do that, yeah. Happy to commit to do that.
Yeah.
We then go on to item 14, the Haringey Pension Fund actuarial valuation. As there are sections of exempt information in relation to this item, I propose that we consider the item in the exempt section of the meeting. Is this agreed? Yeah. Thank you. Item 15, government consultation on governance and reporting of climate change risks. Again, as there are sections of exempt information in relation to this item, I propose that we consider the item in the exempt section of the meeting. Is this agreed? Yes, thank you. Item 16, new items of urgent business, none received. Item 17, dates of future meetings. To note the dates of future meetings. The 12th of December 2022, this meeting has been cancelled. It was scheduled in case it was needed and isn't needed. The next meeting will be 23rd of January 2023 and then 21st of March 2023. Item 18, exclusion of the press and public. We'll now be considering items 19 to 23 which contain exempt information. We'll be moving to exclude the press and public from the remainder of the meeting to consider this exempt information as defined under paragraphs 3 and 5, part 1, schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Is the exclusion of the press and public for these items agreed by members? If anyone has any comments or objections, please speak now. Otherwise, I'll take this as agreed. Thank you. That marks the end of the public section of this meeting.